Yo, what's up, guys? You got PokeaimMD here with something a little bit new on the channel, but though it's definitely not an unfamiliar face. You've probably heard a lot about this guy in the past week or so, or even if you keep up with VGC itself, you definitely know this guy. But I have Wolfe Glick with me. Say hi, buddy.
What's going on, guys?
This guy, you're probably wondering why the hell he's on my channel. Wolfe actually just won Masters, right? Masters for VGC.
Masters Division, yeah,
Yep.
Masters VGC.
VGC 2016, in the era where Primal Groudon, Mega Ray, Primal Kyogre, and all that stuff, Xerneas is running around. Bro, first off, congratulations, like on behalf of
Thanks,
myself
dude.
and everybody watching, even if they don't like you, you're congratulating him anyway.
Thank you,
But,
thank you so much.
yeah, dude, how do you feel about that?
It's honestly incredible. I've kind of been going nonstop ever since I won, and so like it's just been like really crazy. But I haven't really had that much time to process. But I'm so happy. Like I can't even put into words.
No, definitely, bro. You put in so much effort and work. By the way, guys, this will be a two-part interview. The second part will be all the way on his channel, so I will leave that in the description. Go ahead and subscribe to him, of course. Great content, and he has a lot of stuff coming that has to do with VGC and things like that. But we'll obviously save that for when we talk about that. But in any case, bro, why don't you talk about, tell me about the tournament, the venue, how everything went down, your experience there.
Yeah, of course. So like first of all, we got to Worlds and it was like it's normally Worlds is like this big event. I mean, it's always a huge event.
Yeah.
And it's cool because like people come from all over the world, not just to play, but to hang out and to spectate and to do other stuff. And so Worlds didn't start off that strong just because for those of you who didn't hear, the venue was super small, and so in order to get in to the actual competition, you had to have a badge that was like they gave a few out to like spectators, but for the most part, it was for competitors only. So it was really unfortunate because it wasn't announced until like a few weeks
Right
before
before,
Worlds. So,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like people had booked their tickets and everything to come to Worlds to like hang out and watch and like be a part of everything, and then they couldn't get in. So that was like really unfortunate. And it was also like unfortunate because it was good and bad. So the way the tournament works is it's a 3-day tournament, with the first day kind of being kind of like an elimination day where you play 6 to 8 rounds, and if you win 6, you move on, and if you win less than 6, you're done. Like you lose the tournament, you're just finished right there.
Correct.
And so they split us up into 2 flights, like. And the flight that I was in wasn't in the main room with the stream, so none of the games from my flight after round 2, I think, were on stream, which is both like good and bad.
Yeah,
for,
so
like,
people can't see your team, but also
you want to be on
you want,
stream.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool. Yeah.
Great for exposure, and people want to see the games. Especially, you got the champion right here. I want to see his games going through it. Definitely, like the venue itself. As a spectator myself, we actually went up there to record the Pokemon Cipher. Me, Shofu, and a few other people, and we were so disappointed and I guess a little bit angry, upset, just because they told us literally a week and a half before that we would not be able to get in. And I mean, we made the most of it. We were in San Francisco, but I really would have loved to be able just to go inside to cheer my friends on, you, even just to see Cybertron, commentating.
Yeah.
That's because that's so cool. Like, as a fan of him and a friend as well, just to see my boy doing that
Up
on the
there.
big stage. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just there. And it was pretty, like, I didn't like it too much because in order to actually get in, they told us that day, oh, you actually do have a chance to get in, but you have to get online at 7 o'clock in the morning and come and try and get a spectator pass and try and, get in. And I ended up signing up for one. And they emailed me at 5 o'clock that afternoon. Oh, yeah, you can come get your spectator pass now. So the event had already finished for that day. Or
Oh
pretty
my
much almost
gosh.
finished.
That's ridiculous. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so it was like I wasn't really a big fan of it, but I mean I still did what I had to do, and overall, just hearing that you weren't able to be on stream, I can understand how that's like a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because I would definitely have loved to see your game, especially because your team was so cool. And actually,
Thank you, dude.
Go ahead and talk about it. Go ahead and talk about it, bro.
Yeah, of course. And really quick before I do want to share one quick anecdote where it was the day of the finals, and I was like one of 2 masters left in the tournament, and I lost my badge because like I think what happened was like the day before I was playing top 16, and like I was wearing the badge to get into the tournament, but I didn't like the way the lanyard felt around my neck, so I like took it off and put it on the table where I was playing my top 16 match, and then after I won the match, I like just like totally spaced out and grabbed my bag and my DS and just like left to like tell people I won. I left it there. So it's like the finals of the tournament. I'm one of 2 players left, and I'm trying to get into the venue, and the security guard stops me and was like, "You can't get in there without a badge." And I was like, "Listen, like I'm in the finals. Like you have to let me in. Like I have to play." And she's like, "No, like you can't get in." So like a random press guy gave me like a spectator badge, which is really funny because like I got in there wearing a spectator badge and everyone else had like badges that said like competitor, but they were all like knocked out, and I was sitting up there on the finals with a
spectator
badge.
That's actually hilarious,
Yeah.
and that just shows like the organization was just not up to par this year. That's crazy how you you were actually stopped.
Yeah.
There's two people playing left, him and his opponent.
Yeah,
and he's the only guy.
I need to get in.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about your team? We actually have it on the screen. Shout out to Siplick, I believe. His Twitter will be
Yes.
linked down below. He actually drew this. And we have the 6 mods that he brought, as well as the team and pretty much the breakdown on Pokemon.com. So why don't you talk a little bit about it, bro? Why'd you bring these mons? How'd you decide on your Worlds team? And, how you felt the team did itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So the team, as you can see, is Raichu, Hitmontop, Gengar, Kyogre, Rayquaza, and Bronzong. And honestly, like, I'm in love with this team. Like, I've been playing VGC. This is my 6th year, which is like part of why doing so well at Worlds means so much to me. Because like I've tried 5 times before this, and I never really was able to get the championship title. So the team is basically the way the team works is it's like so when Marcus and I went about. So yeah, first of all, I built this team with Marcus Stadter, who got 3rd at Worlds. He's like one of my best friends in the entire world, and he's just like an amazing guy. And we built the team together, and like when we started, we really wanted to think about the way people the way people have been team building in VGC 16 is they say okay, like you get 2 restricted Pokemon, which is like Groudon, Kyogre, Xerneas, Rayquaza, Mewtwo, like those are like not Mewtwo, but the other ones are like the main ones. You see like some like there's like some Palkia and Dialga, but like and they start off and they say, okay, these are my 2 restricted Pokemons. They're Pokemon, and then they add a Mega or 2 Megas, and then they kind of go from there. But if you build a team that way, it's so hard to like really be diverse and be like flexible because you've already started with like half your team just like automatically without even thinking about like why you had this Pokemon.
Yeah,
you know?
like Big Six, for example, is literally just like the biggest threats right there, and they just dump them on the team. Like
exactly.
Like Groudon, Xerneas, Smeargle, all that stuff, and then from there you just go on. And I love the whole, not to cut you off, but I love how there's like Big Six and there's like one for every letter of the alphabet.
Big B, Big C.
It's literally just changing 1 or 2 mons on it. I actually love it. All right, go on, bro. My bad.
No, and I think that's actually like a super like that like really illustrates the point. So for those of you guys who haven't followed VGC, there was this team called Big Six, and it eventually warped into like people would drop one Pokemon and add another, so it became Big B, which was Bronzong, and Big C, which was Cresselia, and that last slot. But it really shows that like it was really hard to be flexible with your team building. And so what Marcus and I did differently when we were building this team is we didn't start with Kyogre Rayquaza. We started with Kyogre and Gengar and Bronzong, and eventually Hitmontop, I think, was the 4th. With the idea being was that like this team, Big Six, Big X, Big B, Big C, whatever, it dominated the format so far. It won like U.S. Nationals, like a 2nd U.S. Nationals, it won a ton of regionals. It did very well throughout the season, and we really wanted to have a matchup that was consistent versus it. Because if you've watched VGC 16, something you probably haven't liked is like how like volatile it is. Like there's Smeargle's Moody, there's Xerneas, which is such a huge Pokemon that if it crits, like it like ends the game right there. We've seen games decided on Precipice Blades, misses or crits or stuff like that, or speed ties.
Yep.
And that's like a lot of the complaints that people had about VGC. And for me and Marcus, like we wanted to be consistent. And so like in part of doing that, we wanted a super strong matchup versus that Big X archetype. And so that's why we started with Gengar, Kyogre, and Bronzong, because Gengar is super strong versus Xerneas and Smeargle, because against Sludge Bomb or Taunt Xerneas. Yep. If Smeargle's Mental Herb, Sludge Bomb KOs. If it's not Mental Herb, Taunt will taunt it and like make it useless. It has Will-O-Wisp for Kangaskhan. It's not great versus Groudon, but it can use its Shadow Tag to trap it while Kyogre's Weather is up, which is like very nice. Taunt is also good versus the Trick Room Pokemon, which is like Cresselia and Bronzong. It's just like it does like 60 to 70% to Salamence. So overall, it's just really strong versus the team. And what I noticed actually early in the season is that if you get Bronzong and Kyogre in under Trick Room, like big X, big whatever, doesn't really have any answers to that. Like it doesn't have anything that can switch into full power Water Spout because it relies a lot on Groudon to like stop weather. But if you get Skill Swap, like Bronzong is Skill Swap, so being able to use Skill Swap to reset the weather like is like a really strong win condition because like basically nothing can switch into it. And so the real threat to that is the Xerneas, because the Xerneas is so threatening and they can protect it with Kangaskhan and Smeargle and Groudon. So if you use Gengar up front to kind of stop the Xerneas and Bronzong and Kyogre in the back for like a late game option, it's just super solid.
Yeah, you basically end up with Bronzong and Kyogre in versus a team with like Groudon, Xerneas, and Kangaskhan with no like defensive like presence. I typically when I think about them, I think of Groudon as the offensive primal and Kyogre as the primal that can actually switch in and dish out a hit. Whereas even though Primal Groudon is obviously ridiculously bulky and has great typing, I just think of Kyogre as the mon that's like taking like the hits because of its high HP, special defense stat, things like that. So definitely I could see how like Bronzong and Kyogre in the back just like help you so. It just helped me so much versus that. I actually used those two as well when I was playing. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think a big part of like why, even though like I think Groudon's bulk is actually like better, but I think like not better, but like it feels like it should be easier to switch in. But the difference is that like if you're in a situation where the Pokemon that switches in keeps the weather, so like or the Pokemon that's currently in keeps the weather, so like Groudon switching in and still in rain, like Kyogre can OHKO Groudon, but Groudon can't OHKO Kyogre.
Correct.
And that's a big difference, I think. And also like one last thing about this is that like big whatever only has one resistance to water, and it's normally Salamence.
Yep.
And Salamence use Naive, so like Water Spout versus Naive Salamence does a lot of damage. Yeah. And also Bronzong was also nice because it provided Safeguard, which just kind of like helped to deal with Smeargle, because I just don't want to deal with Smeargle. You know, I don't want to deal with Moody. I don't want to deal with Dark Void. So like having like consistent, it was a long Bronzong with Safeguard. So just having consistent answers to Smeargle was like super important, I think. For us.
I actually love that was your tech. Like a lot of people in that slot, you could see Gravity, you could see a Blind Hypnosis. Yeah. not always blind, but I love that you had Safeguard as an option just to cover the whole team from Smeargle as a whole, because I think Smeargle is like one of the biggest. I don't want to go too into it, but I think Smeargle is honestly one of the biggest problems of VGC 2016, the meta itself. But
yes,
yeah. Again, super cool. I love that tech. So again, sorry to interrupt you. I just
no, yeah. I mean,
I love the team.
Thank you. I've been thanking me too. And so yeah, that was like, and Hitmontop I didn't mention, but Hitmontop was the fourth Pokemon that we brought versus Big X, and it was just so good. Like Hitmontop provides Fake Out and Intimidate, which is super valuable. And when you think about like Shadow Tag from Mega Gengar, it's good offensively because you can trap things in like Xerneas and KO it. You can trap Groudon in and KO it with Kyogre. But it's also good to keep things that are locked in with like Intimidate and Will-O-Wisp and like I don't know, like Wide Guard and stuff like that. And so yeah, I really like Hitmontop was really good, and our Hitmontop held an eject button, which was really nice because it allowed it to switch in, get an Intimidate off, and like for example into a Precipice Blades, and then immediately switch out. So is in some situations you could switch Hitmontop in, take the damage that they were dealing, and then get a free safe switch to something like Kyogre, because you don't really want Kyogre to take damage unless it has to, because it's so important. But Hitmontop, like it's okay to take damage, especially if it's like a -1 Precipice Blades. You can afford that. And Hitmontop was also really good because Groudon only has fire and ground moves for the most part, and his ground moves Precipice Blades. So we played into a lot of situations where, like, if we had Kyogre and Hitmontop in the end game, where
Groudon couldn't touch you.
You could always 100% of the time wide guard and switching Kyogre, and that was so nice. Like if you had Hitmontop on the field, even not in the end game, but like whenever, and that was such a nice thing because all of a sudden your Groudon, who's like a huge Pokemon who does like so threatening, can't do any damage no matter what it does. Like there's no chance to crit, there's no chance to flinch, there's no chance for anything, and that was like super nice.
Yeah, and even if Groudon had like Earth Power, that's not to a KO
at all.
Yeah,
it's not gonna do anything
at all. Yeah, on Primal Kyogre.
Exactly.
But I love the whole Hitmontop wide guard. Definitely, like I saw a couple matches where you just shut down Groudon completely.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like Fire Punch, maybe Eruption as a move.
Yeah, Precipice
Earth
Blades.
Power, Precipice Blades, correct. Yeah. Why don't you talk about that Raichu? That's like that's my favorite part of the team.
Yeah, I would love to. And Raichu's super cool because it was super difficult to use. Like at first, like I was always like okay at using Raichu. Marcus originally was like super unsure about it. He was like, yeah, like I'm not sure about Raichu. Maybe I'll add Togekiss. Like he tested Togekiss in that slot. But Raichu is like so incredibly important. So I kind of talked about so far the main mode of the team, which was like the kind of versus Big X. But in almost every other matchup versus like Primals and versus Kyogre, my Pokemon that I would bring were Raichu, Kyogre, Hitmontop, and Rayquaza. And Raichu is like so important for the team because it's so bulky. Like people see Raichu and they think, oh, it's Raichu, like I can kill it with stuff, like it's not gonna be that bad. But the combination of my Raichu's incredible bulk, its ability to use Fake Out, and Fake Out is so good in VGC because it protects the partner to use like a big move. Yeah. And if that partner happens to be a Kyogre using Water Spout, it's like, oh, that's not good, like if you take that attack. Not only that, but Raichu offered Nuzzle for speed control, which was so important versus Pokemon like Salamence and Rayquaza and like just like Kangaskhan, like and randomly fast stuff. It also helped to protect Kyogre. Volt Switch, which was so good for switching. People have talked a lot about the Volt Switch eject button combination I used, where like you could Volt Switch into Hitmontop, you could Volt Switch into Kyogre, you could Volt Switch, and like Volt Switch is cool because unlike switching, obviously you singles players know this, but like you can see what they're switching into before
exactly.
you switch.
You get the initiative, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and so that was also really cool because like sometimes like when I had like Kyogre Raichu and the opponent like Groudon in the back, I could Volt Switch the slot that I knew wouldn't switch to Groudon, or like it didn't like if it did like the other Pokemon wouldn't be able to do anything, and if they did switch to Groudon like and use like Water Spout, and if they did switch to Groudon, I would go Water Spout and like or bring a Rayquaza and go Water Spout and Oko, and if they didn't because they were afraid of Water Spout Rayquaza switching, I would go to Hitmontop and get either an Eject Button out, Intimidate definitely off, and then like the potential for Fake Out next turn. And if they did activate Eject Button, I'd just go right back into Raichu, and then like get Raichu back in off for the same turn, but now I have Fake Out pressure as well. So it was like Raichu was so good, and I haven't even talked about Endeavor because Raichu is so bulky. Our Raichu lived -1 Kangaskhan Double Edge, and like if you look at the calcs, that's like most Pokemon can live that without too much trouble, but Raichu is really bad physical defense and really bad HP. So being able to live that was huge. And it also lived Groudon Eruption. It had it had a chance. I think it was a 50% chance. I have to actually wait. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it up. I have a calcs document.
No worries.
It definitely lived Groudon Eruption. It lived
Origin Pulse, obviously.
Exactly.
Move,
Origin Pulse. Yeah, that was like those are the big ones. And it had a chance to live. And I want to check. I just want to be totally sure. Let's just pull this up real quick.
I think the coolest thing, just from looking at Endeavor, was that Raichu lures in so many Pokemon as well, like Groudon as well, and getting off an Endeavor from a weak in Raichu. Raichu's so fast, guys, 350 speed max. Obviously, this is level 50, and I don't think he had max speed on his Raichu.
I didn't. Yeah.
yeah. But just the fact that it lures in something, and it can Endeavor Groudon if you're low, get that thing really low, put that thing in range of Extreme Speed from Mega Ray, or even Ice Beam from Kyogre. That was just so cool to see the Endeavor tech like on this Pokemon itself, and obviously Lightning Rod as well, supporting Kyogre. If they ever went for Thunder with their own Kyogres, or a Zapdos ever came out, or Thundurus, obviously Raichu would absorb that and then get the special attack boost for the Volt Switch as well, just to do a little bit more damage.
Yeah, and I just found the calc. It has so max special attack Groudon only has a 50% chance to KO with Earth Power, which is huge.
Yeah, that's a strong attack. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that Raichu also just totally like shuts down some Pokemon like Thundurus and like Mega Manectric. Just like I played both of those, several Thundurus, but in the finals I played versus like my opponent who had Mega Manectric, which would have been super threatening, except that like he was afraid to bring it because Raichu just shuts it down. And like protecting a team from Thunder Wave, like that was so important because like I think a lot of what I love about this team is that like it doesn't take chances if it doesn't have to, you know, and it has checks for kind of like the BS parts of Pokemon, you know, like we had Safeguard for like Ice Beam, we had Safeguard for Dark Void, we had Safeguard for like Spore, we had Raichu to protect from Thunder Wave. We didn't have anything for Swagger, but we had 2 Fake Out users and Extreme Speed, so like we had ways to deal with Swagger as well. Like in my top 8 match, my opponent just like swaggered everything. He swaggered Hitmontop. I think he definitely swaggered Raichu. I think he went for a swagger on Rayquaza and missed, but it didn't like I was still able to play around it because I had like priority and fake out and like all this stuff, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. And like it's such a obviously Raichu having that fast fake out as well. Like there's all that. I love how it's just supporting the team so much. I felt like Raichu was like the glue of your team. That really that really just helped you play around certain threats and just I loved it. I absolutely love it. Like I'm a big fan of this team, guys. I don't do interviews. I don't do interviews, guys, so obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I love this team. I love this team. Yeah.
It's like it's so deep too. Like I don't know, like I mean, obviously, I'm not here to like toot my own horn, but I'm just like genuinely amazed at the team because like I don't even think I understand it like to the level that it should be understood. Like there's so much going on, and like that's kind of why I love VGC because like in 2v2, 4 or 4v4 with like 2 Pokemon in the field, there's so much that's going on every turn because like the games are so much faster, you know. So every turn is so much more important, and I don't know, it's just so deep.
I'm actually as well. No, I agree completely. I actually agree, and I love how it like danced while I was playing. Like, guys, you should see his games. If you haven't seen them, I'm sure they're uploaded somewhere. But
yeah, they're on the Twitch channel. Yeah,
this man was making switches like it was singles, like straight up. Like the Pokemon were all working. I actually really like your Kyogre. I don't know if this is like super common, but typically when I was playing VGC, if I ran Water Spout, I ran Scald, or if I ran Origin Pulse by itself, I ran Scald or Thunder. Like I never usually had 2 spread moves of Origin Pulse and Water Spout. Why'd you end up deciding on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually like such an important observation. I'm so glad you brought that up. So originally the set was Protect, Ice Beam, Origin Pulse, Thunder, like the standard, you know, Origin Pulse set, like as you mentioned. And I had suggested to Marcus maybe Water Spout Scald. And there's 2 things. So when I said Water Spout Scald, Marcus was like, the Japanese players would never ever use Scald. They would always use Origin Pulse. And I was like, And I knew he was right? Because even though Scald is like more consistent and safer, Origin Pulse, when it works, is just so much better because a 30% chance to burn is not worth like the amount of damage you do on the partner.
Yeah.
And so we were still using Thunder, and like the thing is that Thunder is so bad on this team because half the time, like most of the time you bring Kyogre, you have Rayquaza and Raichu.
Yeah,
and so if you have Raichu,
yeah.
you can't Thunder. And like I remember playing one game where like I thought like. And it sucks because like I would have Raichu on the field, so I'm switching to Hitmontop. They activated the eject button, and I was forced to bring in either Raichu or Rayquaza, and I brought in Rayquaza, and then I missed Thunder, and I was like, this is stupid. And so we somebody who I haven't mentioned yet, but the third person who worked on the team was Brendan Zhang. That's Aaron's little brother. He won Worlds in 2013 in the junior division. He's super talented. He's like so smart. And I worked on the team with him as well, and he was the one who actually said, "Yo, I'm gonna test Water Spout over Thunder because it makes more sense to me." And then I was like, "Oh, like," and then I asked him, I was like, "Hey, Brendan, like, how's that working? Like, what do you think of it?" And he was like, "I like it a lot." Like he said that like he likes it a lot, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And like so I tested it as well, and I also really liked it because and it ended up that being like for me, Water Spout was like the main move that I used in terms of water attacks, just because like I hate missing, like I hate risking games on missing, and so sometimes I think I was even like a little too safe. But having Water Spout as safety and Origin Pulse for like when you could afford it. So like for example, really quick, like game 2 of the finals, game 1 I went for Water Spout, and game 2 I went for Origin Pulse, even though my turn 1 was the same, because I figured I was up a game, I would gain a lot of positioning if Origin Pulse connected with his Gengar, and like I was already up a game. But game 1 I wasn't willing to risk losing game 1 on an Origin Pulse miss. And so kind of having both options was like pretty nice for me, though I think I could have stood to be like a little bit more risky with Origin Pulse. But it's just so scary, you know, because when you like a day 1 I double missed Origin Pulse, I missed a couple times. Actually the round that I missed I lost one set throughout the day, and the day that like the round that I lost was game 1 I misclicked and brought the wrong Pokemon. That was pretty dumb. But then game 2, he had he froze my Rayquaza with an Ice Beam, but I was like, fine. And then I missed Origin Pulse and his Groudon twice, and I was like, I'm like, no. And I think after that I was a little more safe with Origin Pulse.
No, I mean, like you're playing Pokemon. It's a game where random or RNG can mess you up. You have no control over certain things. But if you can put yourself in a position where, okay, you can't miss this move, it's definitely the better play, like all around. So it's definitely smarter that you went for Water Spout over that, and adapted based on what it was. I actually didn't get to see you use Bronzong much when I was watching the games, because I think I just watched finals, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think you brought Bronzong at all.
I did. And Bronzong was mainly brought versus Groudon Xerneas team, so like I didn't play any on stream. So like most of the games that people watched, they probably saw me use Raichu, Hitmontop, Kyogre, Rayquaza. But the thing is that I actually did end up adapting and bringing Bronzong in my top 8 match, because he had Kyogre Xerneas, and that was a super scary matchup. That was actually like the matchup that we like didn't want to play at all. He had the Pokemon he brought were Salamence, Kyogre, Xerneas, and Amoonguss. Sorry. And talking a lot. Oh my goodness.
It's all right, bro.
Sorry. And that was like coming into the tournament, we were like, we really don't want to play versus Kyogre Xerneas. That sounds so scary, because Kyogre, Xerneas, Salamence, and Amoonguss are all super threatening Pokemon, and versus like status. Sorry, let me get some water real quick. My throat is actually super.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. But yeah, guys, Wolfe actually it's so cool to see his run. Like typically when you see the when you think about 2016, you think about cookie cutter teams like Big Six. You think of Kyogre, standard Kyogre, but then you have you bringing Raichu, Hitmontop, and I loved it. I love that you picked Mega Gengar as well. I know you love Shadow Tag too.
I love Shadow Tag. I love Mega Gengar. It's so cool.
Yeah, I know you love Perish Trap as well.
We actually tested Perish Song on Gengar at one point, but it wasn't good, unfortunately. But maybe next season, guys. Keep an eye out. Maybe next season. But yeah, basically what I was saying is like we played versus like the matchup that we didn't want to play against. It was Kyogre Xerneas, which like Kyogre is already threatening to the team because we don't really have anything that can. We don't have anything that can Oko it. And so letting it get like repeated water moves off is super scary. And Xerneas is always a threat, especially versus like Rayquaza Kyogre, because if it gets boosted, it just kills everything. We can't really do much in return. And he also had Salamence for Intimidate, and Salamence is threatening because like Double Edge does so much to Kyogre, and like it's just like so fast, and Hyper Voice is like really strong, and it's good versus Hitmontop and all this stuff. And he had Amoonguss, which is like when we think about covering for status, we want like Gengar and Bronzong, but we don't typically want Gengar or Bronzong versus Kyogre, because it kills them so easily. And so I did bring Bronzong in that matchup. I left Hitmontop on the bench because we'd actually played the day before, and I had a feeling that he wasn't going to be bringing. He only had Infernape and Bronzong for physical attackers, and then like Mence as well, I guess. But Yeah, so I did bring Bronzong there, and I used Safeguard versus. I had to be really careful with my positioning because if I let Bronzong take all Kyogre attack, it was going to be bad. But I was really careful with my positioning. I used Safeguard. In Game 1, I used Safeguard to stop Amoonguss' Spore. And Game 2, I bluffed Safeguard to allow me to get like a big switch out and like allow me to reposition myself like very well, and that was really cool. But other than that, I didn't really bring Bronzong or Gengar on stream because I didn't play any big X variants on stream, and that was the main situations in which I brought those Pokemon.
Yeah. Definitely. Another thing I obviously noticed as well is because I've actually used Raichu a couple times in this meta as well, and typically when I use Raichu, I use Focus Sash. So I love how using AV freed up the Sash for Rayquaza as well. I actually don't know if AV became more common on Raichu, or this was just the first time AV was used, or at least used on a Spotlight anyway. But I loved how that freed up the item for Mega Ray, and Mega Ray in itself is just so cool. Typically, you don't see people using it as much because it's a mega slot and the restricted slot. Exactly.
Yeah.
But
and that I don't know. I think Assault's Raichu had seen some use, but I don't think it had seen like a really big finish yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get that exactly, and obviously you ended up winning, so that's the biggest finish like I can have.
Yeah.
One thing that I've always, I guess, feared when I'm using like Kyogre squads is that I don't switch into Kyogre as well, like opposing Kyogre as well. Yeah, I have resistances in Ray and Kyogre, but like when you're using Primal Groudon, you flat out block its best attack, like its best water moves. So it's really cool to see you, win with Ray Kyogre, like your variation of it. But do you have anything else you want to say about the team? You want to talk about Ray a little bit, or?
Yeah, I guess I haven't really talked about Ray at all. I guess. But, just really quick, Rayquaza was super crucial. The ability to shut down the weather and to provide Kyogre was like so important. Rayquaza actually Rayquaza I think is the Pokemon of the team that I understand like the least deeply, but it's so important. And just like. So like basically Rayquaza, actually I like Rayquaza a lot as a bluff. Like what I would do is I would lead Rayquaza Raichu and they'd be like, okay, he's gonna fake out Swords Dance, and then I would just protect Nuzzle and get like paralysis and a lot of board positioning, and that was really good. If you like versus some teams it was really cool because like Rayquaza, Raichu, and Hitmontop work really well because if you can get if you let Rayquaza get to +2, it pretty much KOs everything in the whole format. Like not everything, but like it does a lot of damage. And so what you can do is you can consistently cycle your fake out Pokemon so that you fake out. So you like fake out one and then you KO the other, and then you bring in the other fake out Pokemon and you fake out one and you KO the other, and they can't do anything to stop it. Especially when you combine it with like Feint, Hitmontop and Feint as well. So like it was really nice to not have to worry about protects if like they had like Bronzong Kyogre as their last two Pokemon and you knew that like their Bronzong couldn't touch like I don't know, like there were some situations basically where like Feint was like really nice with Rayquaza. I think I struggled knowing when to Mega Evolve my Ray. Like going back, if I could improve something, I definitely would like look at like when to Mega Evolve Rayquaza because it's hard to know because you don't always need Delta Stream up right away because you have Focus Sash and you're kind of planning on taking like a big attack. It's like for Rayquaza, attacks either do like a lot of damage like Ice Beam or like Draco Meteor or like Double Edge. Like those moves do a lot of damage, or they do kind of like not a lot, which is like Eruption, Fire Punch, water moves, like stuff like that. And so it was definitely hard for me to know when to Mega Evolve because I had to be thinking of it like several turns ahead and like what am I going to KO? Do I need like I have Kyogre in the back? Do I want Kyogre to come in and have the rain up? Do I want Delta Stream to be up? Like so that was like something that I definitely think I could have improved on. But yeah, Rayquaza, it's also just such a cool Pokemon, you know? Like I really like the way it looks. I like the design. I like it. Extreme Speed is so nice. Like that priority is amazing, and the fact that it ignores redirection is also super good because like there was a lot of situations where like especially in my top 8 match, my opponent had like low HP Kyogre and Amoonguss, and I was able to Extreme Speed and KO the Kyogre.
Yeah, Rage didn't matter because you're obviously faster than it. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. And I was watching you use it, and I didn't know you weren't sure when to Mega Ball. I was like, okay, so he's keeping it right here to obviously keep the airlock, but then
yes.
But yeah, honestly, I think that's great for the team. We went over like Mega Gengar, obviously Shadow Tag, how that pairs well. Obviously, having the taunt shuts down Smeargle and a bunch of other mons like that. Did you ever feel like you missed like not having Shadow Ball or something like that?
Sometimes, especially in finals, because my opponent had Mega Gengar, and Mega Gengar, like his team was so threatening because if I let him trap me, if I let him get my Kyogre on the field and like no way to get rid of the Gengar, then I was kind of in trouble because you'd bring in Groudon and then I was stuck using Ice Beam. So like in the finals, Shadow Ball would have helped a lot, and I think we actually did test it at one point. Yes, we did. When we tested Crobat over Bronzong at one point, and like for that variant, we had Taunt on Crobat, so we had Shadow Ball on Gengar, and that would have been so nice in the finals. But yeah, overall, I feel like Shadow Ball would have helped, but like in a lot of the matchups that I brought it, like I didn't necessarily like I made do without it, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I understand every single one of the moves. I feel like without Will-O-Wisp too, it would have made.
I needed Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, like Kanga. The Kanga matchup in itself. Sludge Bomb obviously for Xerneas and just doing damage in general. And you need a taunt. Smeargle's too much of a threat to not have taunt.
Yes.
And obviously
Yeah.
Protect for the free Mega. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I think that's going to be it for the first part of the interview, guys. Like I said, his channel will be linked down below. The second part of the interview will be on his channel. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to him, definitely. Thank you so much for being on my channel, bro. I appreciate that.
Dude, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, no, of course, like it's so fun for me too as well. I love, like I said, guys, I love his team. I love the style. I feel like it fits my style. It's like a bulky offensive
It
type.
definitely does.
I love the way he played it too. Like he was switching around. But enough of the fanboying. We'll see you guys on his channel. So goodbye, friends.